So hi everyone, and welcome to Innovator Spotlight, where we meet remarkable people and solutions in the cybersecurity industry. I'm Armstead Whitney, the CEO of Aptega, and I'm really excited to have as our guest today, Patrick Contonio with NeQter Labs. We've gotten to know NeQter Labs really well. It's a fantastic platform with a big focus on federal, DoD, CMMC, DFARS, and other really fast-growing frameworks a lot of companies are trying to implement. So Patrick, welcome to today's session.
Hey Armistead, thanks for having me and going over our company and our platform and everything with the Cyber Exchange.
Well, it's great to have you, and we like to kind of start these off with just a few questions kind of about the industry, and then we'll roll into a demo of the NeQter Labs product. So let's just start off with just kind of an elevator. What is NeQter Labs?
Yeah, so NeQter Labs is a cybersecurity software startup. We're based out of Rhode Island, and we focus on assisting companies who are part of the defense industrial base, whether they're direct contractors or they're suppliers in the DIB, with the DFARS, NIST 800-171, and now CMMC compliance. Our software helps in the areas of auditing and accountability, inventory, vulnerability scanning and management, as well as just highlighting different areas of the compliance that a lot of small businesses typically have trouble with. So our tool set, we're designing it to be audit ready for whenever those CMMC certification assessments happen.
Absolutely. Working heavily in CMMC, what are you thinking that companies need to do first? They see these 110 controls, let's say for CMMC level 3, could be kind of daunting and overwhelming. What's the best way to kind of start?
So the best way to start, it kind of comes down to, you don't know how best to put out the fire until you know how big the fire is. So
Yeah.
The first step, and a lot of people run right past it, is understanding the scope of the environment that they're looking to get compliant, because it doesn't always mean company wide. It really means, okay, what environment, whether it be self-contained or it might include the whole company. We work with companies who do commercial and DoD, and they're not going to wrap up their commercial in the CMMC compliant environment. It just doesn't make sense. So step one, because of CMMC worries about the new term for it is CUI, but I like to use CUI, controlled and classified information, where the data flows, transmits, where the data is. What does that boundary look like? And really just start there. And then you can flow out all those other controls out after that process.
Yeah, the heart of it really is protecting the data. That's really the spirit of the new framework. What size companies do you guys generally work with over at NeQter Labs?
Yeah, so we have a quite a range over here. When we first started out, our target was small business, and when we say small business, we don't really mean 500 employees per se. We work with companies as small as 20, 30, and then of course range all the way up to 1,000 employee size companies with multiple locations. But our product was designed for those smaller companies. When you dip down below that, then it's a different equation, and typically is more service heavy and oriented, especially for a sub 20 or 25 employee company.
Do companies need to have a cybersecurity expert on staff to use your platform?
There needs to be a stakeholder. With the compliance, it's really shedding a light on, first off, the lack of IT in a lot of industries, and then of course IT doesn't equal security. So there needs to be those stakeholders. So whether or not it is a staffed position or an external third party who is performing that, there needs to be accountability for that position. But we try to focus on our platform being simplistic and easy to use and understand. But at the end of the day, you can't apply security if you don't have the knowledge or expertise. So,
yeah, absolutely. As you look at CMMC today, it's really being mandated by the DoD, led by the DoD. Do you see other agencies also potentially following CMMC in the future?
Absolutely. Obviously from the CMMC level 3 and levels 4 and 5, that's going to be more on the Department of Defense. They are looking to expand first the NIST 800-171 and then the CMMC into FARS contracts, so all federal contracts. And I'm actually working with members of the SBDC who are looking at having the CMMC level 1 be a North Star program for just general cyber hygiene best practice for small businesses in any industry.
Yeah, that's great. And it is based on the NIST framework, so it's got some backbone behind it that's been established in the industry, right?
All roads lead back to the
Back to NIST
853.
53, the
Yeah.
grandfather, the
Yep.
grandfather of all frameworks. Which
Yep.
which is funny. You know, a lot of people still try to implement 853. And we're like, you're really going to try to implement 972 controls or whatever the number is. It's crazy, but you had to
Mhm.
start somewhere and then kind of tailor it down. Um,
Absolutely.
you know, as you look at technology, you know, and you're on the front lines of innovation. You know, AI and machine learning, and of course, you know, threat actors getting more sophisticated and going, you know, and doing a lot more automation. Where do you see sort of software and technology, you know, on the compliance and auditing accountability side that you guys focus on? Where could that be in 5 years, you think?
So in 5 years, I mean, so one of the unique things about our platform is the fact that we provide it in an on-prem capacity because
Hmm.
we're trying to cater towards um, the best way to put it maybe wouldn't be the industries that are left behind, but rather the industries that are forced to maintain a large on-premise footprint in manufacturing, engineering, um, machine shops, places that have a shop floor and you know you're wearing a Carhartt jacket and you know there's nothing clean about the work that you're doing. Those types of companies they need to have a solution. And in terms of the next 5 years, the past 5 years has been a massive shift to cloud, and everyone's just
Yep.
running to the cloud and getting up there. And then they get to cloud and then they go, wait a minute, our surface layer has expanded exponentially. So I think that there's going to be a real hybrid balance of having cloud provided services, but having host-based protections, because at the end of the day, hosts are a massive surface level that outside actors are able to come into from a ransomware standpoint, especially phishing. It starts with an endpoint, then they move laterally, and then they're able to escalate based upon you know, people's privileges on those individual assets. So I think there's definitely going to be a balance, and that's what we definitely see moving towards. Of, you know, the days of centralization are, I think, are past. So because of cloud, everything's gotten decentralized, but that doesn't mean that the security needs to follow it. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, security has to keep up with all the innovation happening across all the other spectrums of the appification, the cloudification, um, and especially with the with COVID. I mean, are you seeing with COVID there's more risk um, in that surface layer where departments are now buying new apps all the time that may not be secure, and that could be detrimental, you know, to the core, you know, to the core assets of the company?
I'm not sure if it's more from an application standpoint, as I think it is a massive shift in infrastructure.
Okay.
Because kind of going back to that on-premise conversation, where you know, a traditional company would have an office, and then they would have centralized firewalls and endpoint rollout and protection and those types of things. As soon as everyone goes home, the connection stops. They're all using either, maybe they're using personal assets, maybe they're still using corporate assets, but and then the company tries to do a shift towards, okay, well, everyone needs to turn on VPN. We need to go through those central points for security. And then well, wait a minute, our internet connection, we didn't account for that when we built the office. So they need to pay more, and then they have split tunneling, and then it just all goes sideways. So
Yeah,
I think that's more applications, or again, people moving to cloud, but it really just is, what does the infrastructure look like? And people are really having to scramble to try to accommodate that.
absolutely. Well, I'd love to get a peek at your platform. So I'm going to stop sharing my
Absolutely.
screen if you'd like to pick it up and show our audience all the great things NeQter Labs is doing. So let you take it from here.
Sure. So let me. All right. Do we have confirmation?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, awesome. So the NeQter Labs platform. So we're going to be getting into a couple different areas, and I like to focus on just showing the meat of the solution. No slides. No, this is what the platform could do. Here it is. So the NeQter Labs platform, as I had mentioned, we do deal with a lot of small businesses. We're expanding to more mid-level and enterprise-sized companies, but we do primarily provide the platform as a hardware appliance, where it also does come as a VM. You can't spin it up. A lot of companies have a very robust VM infrastructure. So those are the two main ways. So it's going to be on-prem. It's going to be localized. A couple of reasons that we did that is there's a big question mark right now whether SIEM data can be considered classified as CUI, but definitely vulnerability results are classified. So when you go the route of SIEM, or vulnerability scanning and management, it needs to be an on-prem secured solution, or that vendor needs to have a FedRAMP secured cloud. So the different areas that we address when it comes to NeQter Labs is our SIEM, the security incident event management, which helps with the auditing and accountability areas of the DFARS, the NIST, and the CMMC. With NIST and CMMC, there's a whole section, auditing and accountability, about 10 controls or practices or guidelines, which whatever framework you're looking at. The terms change, but they stay the same. There's about 10 that address centralizing, pulling in logs, having those ingressive logs, storing them, and then having a level of retention that adequately meets the DFARS clause, which needs 90 days surrounding an incident of log data to be maintained. So you're never going to have a perfect window. So you need to have 180 days or more of log retention. And because we have our on-prem solution, they're able to easily meet that retention with our platform, with the storage that we provide, or they can augment the archive storage that we have.
Yep.
But the different areas of the platform. So this might be familiar to some people. We're leveraging open source. We're leveraging Elastic on the log collection, the data, the log management, and the visualization aspect with Elastic. So formerly known as the Elk Stack, they expanded it to Elastic Stack just to talk about it with the beats and the different things that they have on the software side. We're pulling in all the different data, whether it be from Windows or Linux-based operating systems, whether it be different networking level equipment, different firewalls. We're pulling in via syslog, via agent. We even have API hook connections with Microsoft 365, both commercial and GCC High. We also do have hookup with Google G Suite we do have some commercial oriented customers, or maybe some other compliance areas that use the G Suite. So we pull in all the logs, we organize them. A lot of people don't spend a whole lot of time in this area. There are some power users that do, but everything gets pulled in, time-stamped, organized, and broken up, and then visualized on dashboards that we have already built out, either highlighting logs that say Microsoft security recommendations have for you should be tracking these event IDs.
Mm-hmm.
We have that. But then there are also some outside of Windows recommendations or Microsoft recommendations that that CMMC or NIST say, hey, you need to be tracking these types of events. We have those hard coded into the different layers of collection, whether it be the agents or syslog. And then the dashboards are already built out for those vendors. So Elastic's a really powerful tool,
Mhm.
but it can be a mire if you're starting from scratch. There's also, with open source, there's the balance of, hey, it's got a $0 price point, but what does the maintenance look like? How many hours are we going to be putting into this thing before we're successful? With NeQter Labs, we focus on day one. You install the agent, you set up syslog, you pull it in. There will be some time to get used to the different trends and spot different things, but on the dashboard side, you're able to see Active Directory information, Windows file
Mhm.
auditing information. You're able to see, we have a dashboard for, of course, everyone's favorite, Cisco. So we have the syslog come in. It's highlighting general information, and then it works its way down to focusing in on, okay, what are
Yep.
some compliance related events that we need to be tracking and maintaining? But of course, you can't have your eyes glued to a screen all day. So there are different events and alerts that we have pre-configured in that you can turn on to say, hey, let me receive an email, or let me get a emailed summary report daily, weekly, monthly of what's going on. And those are templated as well. So we have them built out for the different vendors that we support.
Now, do you also
Mhm.
work through partners like MSSPs that might
Absolutely. Yeah.
use this? Yeah, it seems like you would.
Absolutely. I mean, so we do direct, but then we also have trusted partners because as you had brought up that question before, does someone need a cybersecurity professional on staff? Well, they need they need to be a phone call away. So
Yep.
whether that be on staff or whether that be an MSP or MSSP, we absolutely work with those companies, and they actually prefer our platform, both from a functionality and ease of use standpoint, but also from a cost price point standpoint. Obviously, we're not the first to market with the SIEM tool, right, or a vulnerability scanner, but the different players that are out there, when they say small business, they mean 500 employees, and they're
Right.
not going to dip down. And why would they? For smaller companies, the CMMC and the NIST are a real game changer because they're forcing companies who have never had to think of this before from a cybersecurity standpoint. Again, going back to the manufacturer's analogy, they've had to worry about quality because the focus has been on quality. So ISO 9001 or AS 9100, that's been the focus. Now cybersecurity is a focus. So it's definitely shifting where their budgets don't materialize out of nowhere. So a lot of companies start off with NeQter Labs just to move that way.
Yep.
And the last couple areas, I'm trying to be cognizant of time. The last couple areas, we do have an inventory tool, which allows for pulling in hardware and software information about all the assets, again, within that environment that gets figured out from day one, what that scope looks like. So it pulls all those data points in. Our platform is ideal for companies who want to transition, but also as a starting tool of going from Excel to this tool is definitely a massive improvement. Obviously, other tools that are purpose built for ticketing or patch management or inventory, RMM tools, those are obviously going to be superior because that's their focus. But from NeQter Labs, we try to combine as many tools as it makes sense without doing many things poorly. We try to do a few things very well. We're combining SIM, we're combining inventory, and we're combining vulnerability scanning and detection by leveraging OpenVAS, the open source OpenVAS project, which
Mm.
OpenVAS is a really powerful tool on its own, but the grumblings around it are, man, when it works, but when I have to maintain it, it's such a pain, and then hours get spent. So what our team focuses on is moving from version to version, maintaining features, adding the newer features that get released with the open source project, and also supporting backwards compatibility. If you get Elastic or if you get OpenVAS just as open source and you don't get a supporting package, they do not support backwards compatibility. So if you have to move from version to version, you lose all of those scan results and all of those vulnerability results from prior scans. And from a compliance standpoint, that's not going to work.
Mm.
So with our tool and our team, we build that bridge between versions that allow you to dip back, and you don't have to worry about the underlying operating system, the underlying software. We have on average 4 major updates per year. Last year, we actually had 6 or 7. So we're continually moving and improving and adding things to the platform. And just to kind of wrap up, going back to that discussion of log retention, it's entirely up to you. We want to put the power in the hands of the user. So we don't, from a log standpoint, you can download them all right now. You can access them in the archive and the backup, especially when an incident is discovered. You need access to those logs to report an incident, and you get those immediately through the
Mm.
platform because you're maintaining and you're handling all the data. Some services, they have some secret sauce or special. You have to reach out. It's a couple-day process, but yeah. Again, we're trying to put the power in the hands of the user. Have the tool be straightforward. If you notice, all of the different areas of our tool is just labeled vulnerability scanner inventory. We don't try to add any fluff or anything like that.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is what it is. Um,
You've definitely packed a lot into one place and an easy interface.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, one last thing that we have, which, you know, we're not swinging up at Aptiga because you guys obviously are sitting on top of the mountain with your fantastic platform, but we do have a little bit of a compliance tracking tool specifically for exclusively 800.171 and CMMC that does tie in and pull some reports from the other areas of the
Hmm.
tool that we have. So while you guys are a full-fledged GRC, sometimes if they need to have a localized tracking, they're able to use our platform and
It'll match it directly to the control requirement.
yeah, absolutely. Again,
Yep.
this is the only vertical that we work in. So
Mm.
sometimes having a full-fledged GRC for a 25-person company who's only dealing with CMMC, you know, that doesn't make sense, or maybe they might not know how to use it. So that's why we have a great relationship with Aptiga with those larger, more mature companies.
Mm-hmm.
Aptiga is a great fit. But we just want to provide this at least for someone to, at a bare minimum, not have to leaf back and forth through a binder to read
Absolutely.
the CMMC. So
Well,
yeah,
this is great. Yeah, I
that's
mean,
about
it's
everything.
really cool.
Yeah.
And it seems like you've got a lot of features built in that you continue to enhance over time as the market changes, as new um, products come out that talk to each other a little bit better. You know, you'll be right in the center to bring those dashboards and all that data together in one place.
Yeah, it is a struggle, and it's sort of along the lines of if you have 6 kids, there is one who's gonna get the least amount of time. It's nothing's perfect, so we try to move all of our features, and sometimes some get sit on for 6 months or something like that. But from customers that have been with us since our beginning, the tool is night and day. The feature set is expansive, and we want to make sure, because that's the worst part when you pay for something and it looks the same for several years, and you're like,
Yeah.
I appreciate you maintaining it, but what am I getting? There's definitely a lot of landmark changes with our tool, especially as this specific compliance evolves. We kind of have a symbiotic relationship with as this NIST and CMMC grows and expands, so does our platform.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, thanks so much, Patrick. I'm going to grab control real fast and
Yeah.
show everybody where this appears in Cyber Exchange. And so what we've done at Cyber Exchange is we've mapped together NeQter's product into the Cyber Exchange marketplace. So for example, I can come over
Yeah.
here and type in NEQ for NeQter Labs, and their solutions pull up that show you, all the different sort of main categories that they can help with: logging, monitoring, which you saw, vulnerability management. But I can also say, look, I'm following CMMC level 3. I want to see where NeQter Labs maps on the control level to all these different requirements. And so you can kind of see here, all the places you guys map, which is significant.
Yeah,
And
I had to
again,
do that through Excel.
you had to
That's
do
a
that through
massive
Excel.
pain. Yeah.
And I mean, look, you guys keep going, right? Identification, authentication. So if I click one of these tiles, this takes us to your listing. And there's some really cool things I can do here. You've got some, really attractive pricing. You also have a discount for being in Cyber Exchange. So I encourage all of our audience members to go through Cyber Exchange. You'll get a couple extra dollars saving there. You've got a great PowerPoint deck that people can go through to kind of recap what you went through. Um, One thing that's really cool is you have something called analytics, which means if someone purchased this platform, where else can it help me fill those gaps? And so what we've done is we've mapped on a very easy sort of dashboard here all the different areas of CMMC that you guys can help address, and it's significant. And these aren't just easy, um, sort of gaps. As you saw from Patrick's demo, I mean, there's some sophisticated, pretty deep analytics that they're pulling for you, which can't really be done without a platform like NeQter. So it's really a great way to kind of see that visual and kind of where you guys can solve, a customer's issues. And so again, all those watching, just click Get Quote, and you'll get connected to Patrick and his team, and they'd love to go deeper with you and help you get ready for, again, CMMC, DFARS, all the different frameworks that he's on, which are growing, and more companies need a solution like this. So with that, Patrick, I just want to say thank you for your insights today. I took a lot of notes as well. I always learn something from you, and I know the audience did as well, but we really appreciated sharing your insights and also doing a demo of your platform. And certainly look forward to keeping in touch with all your innovations and growing your business with you in Cyber Exchange. So thanks again for attending.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate the opportunity, Armistead. And we've been talking for quite a while, and we've been able to see our products grow, which is awesome to see.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, Patrick, and we'll definitely see you soon.
All right. Have a good one.